Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Game Master Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video I am going to be going over some more of Conan the Hyborian Age. So this is a new RPG being worked on by Monolith Games, which is a subdivision of Heroic Signatures, the current owner of the Conan the Barbarian IP. So I've already started covering this, including the introduction of it, and now this is episode 2, and I am going to get into combat, and in particular, I'll be focusing on rounds, initiatives, actions, and range. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the PDF and start going over these different aspects of the gameplay. So here we have combat, and I'm going to go into it. I will enlarge this so that you can read along if you wish. So, dark lurks in every corner of the Thurian continent. Foul creatures hide in the shadows. Great beasts prowl the wastes, looking for their next meal. And fury-driven tribes patrol their homelands, eager to best those who would wander too far into their sacred ground. Wherever a brave warrior might journey at one time or another, they will find themselves needing to swallow the duress of combat. Few can explore the wilds without coming face to face with a blade. Of course, not everyone can fight like a veteran of many wars, but for those who choose to travel the continent, being able to protect themselves is not just a suggestion, it's essential. Whether it be by blade, hammer, bow, or even one of the mystical disciplines of sorcery, knowing how and when to strike may well be the difference between life and having your name drift into an age of memory. Rounds and turns. Combat in Conan the Hyborian Age is divided into rounds and turns. A single round includes all the actions of all the characters engaged in combat. Each character engaged in combat, including friendly and enemy NPCs, takes their turn by spending all of their actions. Once finished, another character spends their actions. Once every character has taken their turn, a new round begins and the characters spend their actions, one character at a time once again. The order in which the characters take their turns is determined by initiative values. So here's a side note. Current combat. The term current combat is one that appears in a number of places throughout these rules, usually in relation to the duration of an effect. These rules are considered to last until the current combat has ended, be that a fight against a single mercenary or an entire horde of warriors. Once the ongoing combat has ended and the characters are able to stand over the bodies of their vanquished foes, any effects that last for the current combat will end. This is a phenomenal mechanic. This so much simplifies spell casting, for example, because you don't, as the game master or as the player, have to keep track of the rounds taking place for a spell effect. The spell effect, from the time that it's cast until the end of that current combat, will be in effect. It is such an easy way of handling the timekeeping aspect of the game by eliminating it and just saying, for this current combat, this is what the spell effects are going to be during that combat. So really like that. That is very, very simplified, and it just makes sense. It works perfectly, I think. Initiative. In combat, it is important to determine the order in which combatants act, characters take their turns. That act slash might be a little typo. Again, this is quick start rules and still being tweaked. Whenever combat is imminent, the GM alerts the players and initiative values should be determined. When this happens, each PC calculates their specific initiative value for the current combat in the same way as making an edge check, edge stat value plus die value, and adding any bonuses granted by skills and or other rules. There is no difficulty for this check. Players are simply trying to determine a value that will be compared to their combatants. All right, so very simple. And again, initiative lasts through the current combat. All right, so you don't have to re-roll initiative every time a full turn has taken place. All right, important. As an exception to the usual rules, a character does not roll their flex die when rolling to determine their initiative value. So you're just using your edge and then your edge roll, and that's it. No flex die will enhance the roll that you make. The GM should determine the initiative of enemy characters by making one roll using the lowest edge stat among all of the enemy characters. All right, and so the enemies are disadvantaged in the fact that they use their slowest in initiative character as the base, which I kind of like. It gives the PCs a little bit of an edge in this case, and basically you only move as fast as your slowest member. All of the GM's controlled forces will act at the same time in the initiative rotation based on this total. It is advised to record the GM's initiative value as well as the players' values and display them at the game table so that all players can see the order. All right, so very easy. You can do this. I would, if I have a table of 5 players, I would hand out cards that are numbered 1 to 6. You know, the GM being 6, or whatever, and handing them out in that order of who rolled best on their initiative value, and then it would just go in that order. You could use other initiative rules as well, which they talk about an optional initiative rule here. The GM may make one initiative roll for all minions, which are kind of minor NPCs of the same type, and another for each antagonist, allowing them, like player characters, to use their own specific values separate from whichever other enemy characters they are fighting alongside. All right, so again, this puts on equal footing antagonists versus PCs and still maintains the minions are going to function at their lowest possible roll for their initiative value. During combat, all combatants act in descending initiative order, with the highest initiative value taking their actions first and the lowest initiative value taking their actions last. I'm not going to read through the example. If a character has the same initiative as another character, they are considered tied. Tied characters who are allied to each other may share the number and choose each turn who acts first during that slot in the initiative order. If a PC is tied with an enemy character, the PC may spend a stamina point to beat the tie, placing them just above the enemy character they were tied with, but not ahead of any other characters in the initiative order. If a player character does not choose to spend a stamina point to break the tie, then the enemy character will act before them. All right, I really like this rule because it shows you how the player choice to expend a stamina point, it's like they're pushing forward, and they're really striving to go first ahead of their enemy, and so it shows that exertion, and it comes at a slight cost, but they are going to get an initiative advantage in this case. So I do really like that rule of giving the player the choice to expend stamina in order to go first. Actions for player characters. An action represents a player character's deliberate choice to do something. Thinking is not an action, nor is blinking or breathing. Drawing a sword, however, is, as is driving it through the guts of a foe. Actions taken by PCs only need to be detailed and ordered if they are taken during combat or a contest. And so they give you some sample actions here. There is move, there is manipulate, there is attack, there is a focused attack, which actually costs 2 actions. Under certain circumstances, characters may have 2 actions based on their attributes or their skills or whatnot, and so they can expend both of those actions to make a focused attack. Same thing with defense. You can either defend with 1 action, just as you can with an attack, just 1 action, or you can use 2 actions. All right. A character that defends may not gain any bonus actions through stamina points or skills. All right, so that's one thing to remember. But when you use the 2 actions, gain +2 physical defense until the character's next turn. This action may be only used once per round. All right, so if you are being attacked by multiple targets, you can only defend against one of them. Casting a spell is 1 or 2. Casting a spell or make a sorcery attack. See spell details for action costs. Some spells have additional cost. And then there's free actions, which only 0 cost, so it doesn't cost you anything to do those. And then anything else not covered by the above options are deemed suitable by the GM. Okay, and so when we get here, in combat, a PC may perform 2 actions per turn, though certain skills and or stamina points spend can allow for more. A PC must use or lose all of their actions on their turn. They may not wait to see what an ally does and save an action for later. However, during their own turn, a PC may take their actions in an order that they wish. So attack, then move, move, then attack, manipulate, then attack, etc. All right, note that the GM is free to ask for a relevant check to be made in order to perform any action. For example, while moving in an open ground may be easy enough to do, taking a move action through dangerous terrain or over a large obstacle may require a check in order for the action to be successful. A character may perform the same action twice in their turn if they wish. And once again, these are the available actions which I already described. Actions for enemy characters. The actions for an enemy character, minions, and antagonists are dedicated by their profiles, which are found in this book as well as other supplements. The number and types of actions these characters will take during a turn can vary, so be sure to read each entry carefully. Unless stated otherwise, an enemy character may do anything a player character can do, including performing a focused attack or choosing the defend action, where the GM deems it necessary. Typically, minions will only take move and attack actions. Antagonists, however, will often have more variety and powerful capabilities such as spells or special attacks, and make more use of their various actions available. Enemy characters may also suffer or benefit from any modifiers or conditions, just like player characters. Beyond these, GMs may not have to should not have to flip through the book to find rules for enemy characters. All the necessary elements are contained within each enemy's entry within the included tales. During combat, Conan the Hyborian Age uses a simple, abstract method of determining the relative distance between each combatant. This is defined as range. While the following rules provide a detailed approach to determining the distance between various characters, GMs may wish to ignore them entirely, simply using the range table as a guide for the distance of movement and the range of thrown weapons. The GM may use whichever approach best suits their group without interrupting the flow of the action. All distances in combat situations are measured by range zones to allow the action to take place without needing exact measurements between combatants and other objects. When combat begins, the GM should specify up to 5 zones: touch, close, medium, long, and distant, depending on the size of the location where the combat is taking place. The touch zone is always used during combat. In addition, a fight in a small room may only require the close zone to be applied, whereas a fight in the wide open landscape may require all 5 zones. The exact need for zones is to be determined by the GM. Typically speaking, zones can be described as follows. Touch, obviously, you're within hand's reach of one another, or weapons reach, melee weapons reach. Close range represents a distance just beyond the arm's reach and the distance that can be reached with a few strides. Close is a typical range for spears and pole arms. Medium range represents a distance roughly equal to the opposite side of a large room or across a street or stream. Medium range is typical range for thrown weapons. Long range represents the distance much greater where a character can see but not throw an object to. This zone may be quite large and is typically ranged for ranged weapons such as bows. Distant range represents a great distance that is at the very boundary of a battlefield. It is the largest of the zones, and only a few ranged weapons can reach this far. Now, I like the zone size, the way that they describe it here, because it helps you understand how quickly you can move from to be within that zone, and then closer to get to touch, let's say. So touch range zone is always within the range of the character. The close range zone is roughly 1 move action wide. All right. So if you're close to get to touch range, it only takes 1 move. The medium range zone is roughly 2 move actions wide. So it would take you 2 actions. So if you use both of your actions just to get within touch, you can do that from medium range. Or you can move away by the same standard, move away 2 moves to get away from something that's chasing after you, let's say. The long range zone is roughly 4 moves wide, and finally distant is up to 8 moves, action moves wide. And here they give you a representation here. The easiest way to imagine the zones is to picture a number of circles radiating from where whoever is performing an action, with each circle in turn getting larger, much like a drop of water hitting a pool, and so on. So you can kind of see what is touch, then close, then medium, then long, and then very far. I won't go into the example here because it's pretty self-explanatory actually. Line of sight. In order to make a ranged attack, a target must have line of sight to their target. That is to say, they must be able to see the character or object that they are aiming at, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Movement and ranges. Actually, I should have read this first. Though the GM is free to adjust the distance being moved as they deem appropriate, as a guide, it is suggested that each range zone cover a distance equal to a number of move actions as shown in the range table. Once a character has moved, the range to all objects will be changed accordingly. For example, if Conan moved from E2 in the above diagram, he would now be within touch range of that enemy and close range of E1. All right, so if he was here, he can move to E1 in one round, within one round. Attacks and damage. I am going to spend a whole video on just attacks and damage, so that will be the next video. But there you have it. There you have combat. You know, the first segment of combat that I'm discussing. So rounds and turns, initiative, actions, and range. So the next video in this series will focus on combat, and you'll see all of the dynamics of the combat and damage and defense, armor use, and so on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like and subscribe and to comment for sure. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen or at a gaming table at a convention sometime soon. You enjoy your weekend. It's Friday afternoon, so you all enjoy your weekend coming up. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care.